it can drink 5 gallons of any fuel and just take it, keep on trucking. You know who can do that?
Who?
Jerry can.
Oh, that's
So I guess we're ready to get this kicked off, huh?
Sure.
cool.
All right. Well, I'm Jesse. This is Chris. We're with Torque King 4x4 here on the Gear Talk podcast. Tell us a little bit about you guys.
Well, I'm Hopper.
And I'm Zach.
We're the pit guys. We talk about stuff related to racing, racers, stuff like that.
We also talk about a lot of totally like random stuff that doesn't have anything to do with racing or cars. This is kind of like our weekly therapy session.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a little bit of our therapy and a little bit of racing in one of our episodes.
Good.
It's pretty humorous.
Yeah.
Tell me, what have you guys been up to? What kind of things you get into?
Well, all sorts of stuff. So we just finished up our race season. Rocky Mountain Speed and Fab is kind of the team we're part of. Race the 4900 class in Ultra 4, which is UTV. So we have a race car. Joe, our team owner and driver, he kind of put this team together, and we jumped on board. Zach's kind of the logistics guy. I'm the fabricator, and then we got Joe, the driver and team owner, and then our buddy Jeff, and he's the co-driver. And we just do a lot of stuff. I particularly enjoy working on cars and flipping them and
Not rolling, flipping like selling.
selling them for
Yeah.
money.
It is fun when we
Car
roll.
race in Montana about 2-3 years ago. The car came right past me, and I filmed it coming around and rolled over. Got it on camera.
Nice.
I might have rolled my UTV over a couple weeks ago with Hopper in there.
And my shoulder still hurts.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
right now, kind of what we're working on is my thing. I want to try and race in the 4600 class in Ultra 4. So there's a couple different things in the work. 4600 class, for those listening, that's the stock class. Pretty much the most painful class out there. So I've been kind of looking at different platforms to race, and right now I have a 1978 full-size Jeep, a Jeep Cherokee.
Wagoneer.
We discussed this earlier. Wagoneer. I'm not going to race that because, one, it's kind of pretty, and two, it's really freaking honking huge. So right now I'm in the process of bidding on another vehicle. We'll see if it comes through, but I definitely have utilized you guys before, because before I got into racing, rec wheeling, I did a 1-ton swap on my XJ, and I had axles out of it was an 87 F250, so it was a high pinion Kingpin Dana 60, and it's really hard to find parts for those axles at your local parts store. So I actually have quite a few parts bags in my tool chest that say Torque King on them. Very handy.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of stuff for those old trucks.
Yeah, and it's great because, like I said, you go into CarQuest and I love the people in there, but half of them, they're just there for the job, and you walk in there and you just go right behind the counter and start helping them look through the computer, and then corporate doesn't stock any of that stuff. So you guys fill a huge role in a very niche market. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely keeps us busy every day. That's for sure. And we're breaking off into the Roxor stuff too. I got mine parked here, but that's selling just as good as some of the domestic stuff these days.
Yeah, so we don't have a whole lot of experience with Roxors. We've seen a couple guys out at King of the Hammers that have them, for like little hammer town scoot around vehicles.
So my understanding is with Roxor is it's made, and please jump in, but it's made by Mahindra, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so Mahindra basically just bought like all the tooling from the Willys, like old Willys wagons or something like that. No?
Exactly.
They used to make the Willys under license for India. And
Okay.
they've made their own variants of it ever since. Actually, this is a 2019, and a lot of the parts are basically interchangeable with like a CJ
Okay.
vehicle. It's kind of odd to see. So they started in the late 40s. Jeep got them some die, or Willys got them some dies to start making, and then just the evolution between what the American Jeeps did and what India did. There's a lot of similarities, a lot of things are the same, but then there's some other things like the front brakes are very modern, but a very different evolution path, I guess you
Yeah.
could say.
Totally different hub style.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're pretty
Kind of-
similar to a CJ vehicle.
Well, that
And so are those so the engines in those, are they fuel injected or carbureted or?
It's a 2.5 liter turbo diesel.
Oh, that's cool.
I like
Yeah.
that.
So, and you can tune them up a little bit. They've got very basic, CP3 management computer on them. Or not CP3. You can swap a CP3. Anyway, high pressure common rail.
Sure.
Injection management. That's really that and the lights are really the only thing electric on it. So you
Okay.
can put a programmer in and tune them up. This one's tuned up about as much as the fuel pump will handle. And it's almost as much power as what a first gen Dodge diesel made.
Okay.
140-ish horsepower. They were, 160 or something?
yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood.
In 89,
165,
yeah.
something like that.
So it scoots a little decent. The torque range is different. It doesn't kind of build up and pull you like an old Dodge will, but there's still plenty of power in it.
Sure.
And actually, there's a guy that does race one of these in King of the Hammers.
Okay.
I don't know.
As far as I know, you can't license a Mahindra for the street in every state necessarily, but you can in Montana because Montana license four-wheel drives. I mean, four-wheelers and small sport utilities, stuff like that. Not a sport utility vehicle, but quads basically.
Hmm.
And so the UTVs, you can license those for the street in Montana. You can drive them. I think you can just drive them down the highway, although
You can, yeah.
most of them don't go that fast, or they're scary as heck
Yeah,
at that highway speed.
Yeah, mine's not geared to go down the highway, but I've taken it down into Wyoming a couple times down the interstate. Just drive 65 and then it's not wrapped up too hard.
So here's what Google told me. Jesse Haynes and Justin Sexton
yeah.
won the Everyman Challenge, which is
Okay.
4,600 stock, 4,500 modified, 4,800 legends. They won the 4,600 race at King of the Hammers in 2020, which was my first year at King of the Hammers. And I do remember that being like a topic of discussion. A diesel-powered Roxor.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it looks like, kind of look,
CJ3 or something.
well, it looks almost like an LJ because it's lengthened maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe the picture's
Yeah, the
distorted.
picture's distorted.
But man, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you've got some pedigree here with these things. I get it.
There's some pretty cool deal. They just sound like a little old tractor.
Yeah, you straight pipe them and put a turbo on. You got a lot of turbo whistle, and
Yeah.
it does sound like an old diesel tractor.
Huh.
Man, maybe you should get a Roxor, dude.
There you go. We got
I
plenty.
mean, it'd be cool. That's for sure.
So I'm a huge UTV guy. It's what I'm into recreationally, but I also like to race them and work on them because I understand how they work and I've got a lot of experience in them. I'll stop just short of saying that Hopper hates UTVs. He doesn't hate them. He just doesn't like them very much. He always
Yeah.
gives them a hard time.
I'm not a UTV guy. They're too little. They're not real.
So maybe this would be like a cross between your race truck and a razor.
Could be.
It would be. There you go.
That's a pretty good combination. Yeah. I've seen quite a few guys, when I was looking at Roxors myself for my dad, he wants one pretty bad. And I watched some comparisons between some of the UTVs and a Roxor. And, some comparisons were pretty fair to both sides, right? Because they're really not the same thing. You can license them as a UTV in Montana, but it really isn't a UTV. It's an old Jeep, and it'll jar your bones as you're bouncing around unless you do some of the mods like Jesse's done to his. And there's, because there's so much research and development that's been done to the Jeeps that are so similar, there's a whole lot of that stuff that just kind of moves right on over and works for the Roxors. But it's really not the same thing. That those UTVs are built for big, spongy, long travel suspension. It's not the same animal. Some guys were really griping about the Roxor and loving their UTVs, and it's like, okay, yeah, I know Yamaha's paying you, so that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, they ride a little rougher, factory type leaf spring suspension. Obviously it doesn't perform as well as some of the newer UTV stuff.
But it's a solid front axle, right?
It is. Yep.
See, there's another win for you, man.
So what is the, like, I'm used to, oh, it's a Dana 30. Oh, it's a this, it's a that. What is the axles? The axle under that?
There are 44 clones.
Okay. So one, it's pretty stout comparatively, and two, you could be like, oh, I need to regear this, and you can just get Dana 44 ring and pinion, correct?
I'm running Spicer 538 gears, ARB, Dana 44 lockers. I've got RCV shafts in the front. They're a custom length just because the axle width is different. And then it's got a somewhat modified Jeep full float kit in the rear.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to re-gear, you just get whatever, go to get Dana gears, get Yukon gears, get Nitro gears, whatever you want. It's a little tricky. The factory carrier for the 18 to 20 or 21, they came factory with 373 gears, and the carrier offset was halfway in between the high and low ratio offset for Spicer. So you'd have to replace that. The 538 gears they're putting in, or 513 gears they're putting in the new ones from the factory. Maybe it is 538. I don't remember, but that carrier is the same as the Spicer low gear ratio.
Interesting. I like it. I mean, it seems pretty cool. And the beautiful thing that, like, my main turn off with a UTV is the CVT. I don't like belt drives. They put them in passenger cars. They're complete garbage. Like, I can't stress that enough. Like, Subarus have problems. Nissans or Honda, actually, the Honda CVT is the biggest pile of flaming dog turd. And then Nissans are pretty bad. Subarus are pretty bad. They're just bad. And you can't service them. Like, they're not rebuildable. They're throwaway units. And then you get to the UTV world, and they work pretty good when they work pretty good, and then when they don't, they're a giant pain in the butt. And I'm not a belt guy. That's why I like Honda Talons, because they have a gearbox on it, but still, it's still a UTV. But like I said, I don't hate them. They're just not my cup of tea.
What I found the biggest thing with the belt stuff is at low speed, trying to get up over something, maybe you can't just bash into it because it'll just bounce you back. I find that's probably the most when you start burning the belts up and stuff like that. Like this thing, I didn't even have to touch the accelerator. I just let it idle.
Yeah.
It'll walk right up.
I love it.
I've got a lot of experience in the snowmobile world. That was my introduction to CVTs.
Mm-hmm.
And snowmobile guys that tinker, like me, we learn how to take apart clutches and maintain them and clean them and improve them and stuff like that. I like a CVT. I'm a fan because I can fix it. I can work on it. Now, I have specialty tools. I have experience working on them. I can do trail side fixes. But I get it. When you when you don't adapt your driving style to having that CVT, it will burn you bad.
And on top of it, sleds are a whole different animal. You're running wide open all the time.
Oh yeah.
You're just not like, you're not going to sit there and just like play with your throttle, right? Because that's not how they work. Whereas UTVs,
Little different.
yeah.
But there's gearing and some things you can do. I like it because I can tinker it and I understand it.
Yeah.
But
They're
to a,
easy. The parts are real small, so I mean, you can unbolt, half of it and just pick it up and move it out of the way.
yep.
You're not
And
doing
there's-
that with something like this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of aftermarket because Ski-Doo and Polaris snowmobiles, Can-Am and Polaris UTVs. This is a huge market, so there is a lot of resources out there for it, which that's big too. You got to be able to get parts on anything. Which I don't know. Maybe your guys' problem is the same as ours. Parts don't exist right now, right?
Yeah, we've actually had to start making quite a few of them. I'd make more, but we're limited. We can only you can only do so much stuff at a time. But yeah, it was real bad there for a while, and end of 2020, most of 2021. It's starting to bounce back though. Now at least I found when you order parts, they will eventually get to you. Where a year ago, you might see them, you probably won't, kind of thing.
Yeah. I've ordered
Yeah.
some stuff off of Amazon, and it's, for us up here, it's like 5-day shipping for the most part. And then all of a sudden I'm getting stuff like next day. I'm like, is there like an Amazon elf hiding behind the tree waiting for me to place an order? Holy moly.
We've never, even before COVID, gotten stuff in 2 days.
Yeah.
It's very possible. There's actually a distribution center about 30 miles from us here.
There is.
There is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we never get anything from that center, that's for sure.
No, I do once in a while.
Ours is only about 60 miles away in Denver, but because of the way the postal service works and all of their wisdom and strategery, it somehow takes 3 days. Usually it comes halfway up the mountain, goes back to Denver, and then goes past us and then gets to our house.
That sounds legitimate.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's when
Pressed by way of Georgia,
Yeah.
the country, not the state.
yeah. In Hopper's case, the postal service usually just loses this stuff, so it doesn't even matter where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's there, they just don't know where it's at.
Yeah. We see that a lot too. I don't know what they do with it. They say that, we're modernizing all our facilities and we're getting all this fancy new equipment, and then packages are, somewhere. Not where they
Yes.
need to be.
Not at my house.
No, all we're getting we got a email from UPS the other day about how they value their customers and they're working hard to make things better, and things are getting better all the time. And I corrected their email and sent it back to them.
Yes.
I would assume that you guys ship out quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a huge place, but there's between 50 and 100 packages a day, and sometimes 150.
Man.
It just depends on the time of year, I guess. We get a lot when snow starts going all across the country. That'll be our busy time because everybody starts breaking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's a surge right before the snow because people want to get the stuff fixed before it snows, and that's only a small fraction of people. It seems like everybody, everything just breaks at the same time.
Wait till it breaks.
Yeah,
Then get another one.
yeah. Front drive shaft season is just about upon us now. Yeah, it is upon us. We did several this week and last week. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know-
those are the guys that are doing it ahead of time though.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We know a lot of Ultra 4 guys that have axle issues right now after our race last weekend. A lot of
Running
axle
those SEMA drive shafts.
Yes. Bluetooth shafts.
Yeah.
So do you guys apparently, I would assume, you're talking about the surge before the snow. You provide for a lot of plow people. At least
Yeah.
up here and looking around, a lot of these guys that own plow businesses, it's all like 70s and 80s Blazers, and stuff like that. So and parts are hard to find. Like I said, you guys provide a great service, but like you'll see some of these plow dudes, and they just whenever a Blazer comes up for sale, doesn't matter how crusty or rusty it is, they buy it and it sits there, and they scab together like one good plow truck out of the 4 old Blazers sitting out back.
Well, they're handy because they got a big enough cab. You can throw some gear in the back in them, and you can throw some 60s under them, so you've got decent 8-lug running gear. You can they're short wheelbase, so you can really turn around tight in some parking lots compared to even just a regular cab long bed pickup. So it's not a bad way to go.
Yeah. They just get a little squirrely on the highway when it's slick out.
Yes, they do. I had a 78 Jimmy that was all-wheel drive, that 203, heavier than the moon transfer case.
Yeah.
And, I was young when I had it, and the only way I could get the thing to do donuts is if I spun around backwards. Do the trick. But that all-wheel drive, as much as I hated the all-wheel drive for a lot of things, it was really sure-footed.
Yeah.
My dad said he flipped over some of these Chevy Blazers that were lifted when he was running a wrecker, and when I was a kid, he said that he didn't want me having that thing. I said, "That's great. I do fine." I put a 6-inch lift on it. Never had a problem with it. Never got anywhere close to tipping it over sideways. I did bump the front end off of a rock doing a little climbing up over by the high school,
Oh,
the heights.
Yeah.
And I know it probably didn't bounce up as high as it felt, but it felt like I went to about there and then came back down. And I had my kids in the car, and they were just little kids at the time, and I thought, that was really, really stupid. I'm never doing that again. Without a roll bar. Seatbelts. All that.
Mama would have put a quick end to that for me.
Oh, man. Stopped it right there. But lots of fun in a Blazer. I loved mine. It was a blast. Well, Jimmy and GMC Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah, so this 78 FSJ that I've got has that weird quad-track transfer case in the middle. It's got like the dial inside on the dash, like green and red. I'm like, when I bought it, I was like, what the heck is this? Dana 40 front and rear. And what I think I'm going to sell it. I think I'm at that point. But what I was planning on doing was, I was like, oh man, Torque King's going to come into the clutch because I need to make it a driver drop because it's right now a passenger drop. And I was going to take the 1-tons off my XJ and put them on there and build it into something cool. But that's definitely like, that driver's side or that passenger side drop stuff is really weird. It's like just super uncomfortable almost because I'm a Ford guy and everything's driver drop and then it's a full-time transfer case with and I'm used to a 4-wheel drive selector is like a shifter or something, but I've got like a little tab under the seat that you slide up or down for high or low, and then you got the knob for locking the transfer case or unlocking the transfer case. Super weird, but seems cool.
Yeah, we could set you up with a 271. Latest and greatest. Got them on the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I've been looking. The other thing that's all of a sudden skyrocketed was because a couple years ago you're like, I'll do like a Dana 300, and then you like do the flip kit and flop it over, and you can use the Dana 300, whatever. You could pick one up for $200-$300. And now some dude, I messaged him and he's like, yeah, I got a couple Dana 300s, 1,000 a piece. I'm like, what the heck? He's like, that's what they're going for. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently everyone wants to buy them to put into those like Midnight Metalworks rock boxes or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Midnight's right down just an hour and a half from us.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Once they started coming out with stuff, the 300s, I mean, they used to be kind of a dime a dozen. You could find them anywhere.
Yeah.
And now that market has opened for the snazzy stuff that they make for them. Everybody
yeah.
wants them. I can't blame them. I mean, you got a gearbox that's this big and just as strong as
Just
anything else,
bulletproof,
just
yeah.
about, you know.
Yeah.
Well, he's got that full billet case he can get too, so at least he can still build one. But
Yeah, all
Yeah.
it takes is money.
yeah, just make more money. That's all there is to it. It's easy.
Yeah. Can't blame him for that. Which means I got to make more money to afford the stuff.
It's a good thing you're a paid well civil servant.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what,
That's funny. Paid well, civil
well
servant.
paid.
Well
Yeah.
paid. Yeah, that doesn't. That's what. So I work for a sewer district here in town of Granby, and you'll never go hungry on what I make, but you'll also never be rich. And then the minute you're like, oh, we're getting some raises, then our old friend inflation pops around the corner, and he's like, hey, guess what? Milk is $6 a gallon. I'm like, is this
Yeah.
allowed?
Just stop eating. It's not that hard.
Well, that's some good advice for Hopper. He's got something coming up. He needs to be getting svelte and looking good. We can't talk about it,
Yeah.
but
Well, and then on top of that, if I want to be a big shot race car driver right now, I'm wearing my red fire suit, which is so the problem with me is my gut sticks out, but the rest of me is not that crazy. So to go around my gut, I got to get like the triple X fire suit, and the leg, it's like clown legs and a clown top, and I like, oh, look at that. I watch video of myself. I'm like, wow, look at that doofus walking around. Looks like a weird fat old guy in my red fire suit.
but man, you're easy for people to see.
All white shoes.
So yeah, I gotta keep the weight down. So I'm not, I got to cut weight before races. So I'm not keeping back the old race program. And then there's the whole thing of climbing in and out of windows if you don't have doors. But that's what you have co-drivers for.
Yeah.
Right on, Bo.
To help pull you in.
Make them get in and out. You just hang out inside.
Oh, yeah.
Fire extinguisher. Yep.
I'm intrigued by this Roxor thing, man. We're gonna have to do some research here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. You've kind of alluded to like the basic makeup. It's kind of a CJ type, fairly similar to what we have domestically. Like, are they? If you want to buy one, can you just buy them anywhere? Do you have to buy them off a container ship, like the mini trucks, or how's that work?
They have Roxor dealers. Most any Mahindra tractor dealer, I think, can get them, and there are some other Roxor dealers. What Mahindra wants, starting, I think this year they started, maybe late last year, they want everybody that sells Roxors to sell tractors too.
Okay.
So a lot of the dealers around here have picked up a couple of tractors just to fulfill the requirements,
I know a guy that sells Mahindra tractors.
Mm.
We've talked about it many times on our show.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember that.
There's a dealer locator on the Roxor website. Actually,
Okay.
I think it's roxoroffroad.com. It was broken for a while, but I think it's working again. And it doesn't show every dealer. There's a couple dealers around here it doesn't show. I think because they're not selling tractors, they took them off their locator list. They're still around. But yeah, there's one in just about every state now. I think even Alaska has one.
Mm. Do you have heat and AC?
I do.
Dang, that's one up on the UTVs right there.
Yeah,
Well, technically, my Razor does have air conditioning. I mean, it doesn't have upper doors, so.
Yeah. Well, when you're in Oklahoma in July,
Oh man,
it doesn't matter how fast you're going. It's like you're in a blast furnace. So that AC comes in the clutch.
would be nice.
I feel like this could be a great pit vehicle avenue
Possibly, yeah.
because you have heat, you have AC, you have a cab. It's small, it's nimble, but it also has a payload. Now, are these just all like a certain like wheelbase? You get an extended wheelbase in them at all, or?
No, they're all one shot kind of one model deal. Now they have two submodels. They used to, when they first released them, they had a few different option packages. Now it's an open top. I forget what I think with the 4-person rollover protection. And then the ones that they sell with heat and AC installed is just a 2-door. You just put a different cab on it, but 2-door and 2-door ROPS on it. So they really slimmed down, and only 2 colors, red and black now. It used to be
Like the Model T. Any
Yeah.
color you want, as long as it's black.
Yeah, it used to be they had 24 colors, but of course it doesn't take much to paint one of these up if you don't like red or black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the olive drab you got on there. I think
Yeah.
that looks really good.
I mean, for those of you listening, we're on this Zoom call or whatever. It's sitting in the back, and it looks freaking badass. Like it's like a World War II badass. I love the way it looks. It's got great stance. It looks mean. It looks like you just like, hey, we're gonna go out in the woods and we're gonna conquer everything. Like you got like a big D-ring shackle hanging off it there.
Yeah. That may or may not be military issue. I can't speak to that, but
Yes, it just looks great. Like it looks beautiful.
yeah, this is definitely not factory.
Yes.
It's got a different grill on it. The front does have a shackle reverse kit, which actually turned out to be pretty good. So these are almost all the components are manufactured in India and then shipped here to be assembled. So you've got India metallurgy. And the front springs, a lot of people bend them because they got the shackle in the front like the old Jeeps had.
Mhm.
And if you push that into a rock, it'll turn your spring into a horseshoe. But with the shackle reverse kit, it's rock solid. There's all kinds of scars I've got on the front, and the spring's just fine. So that did raise it up a couple inches. I did swap a couple of leaves in the back with lift leaves that On the Rocks Fab here makes for these. I just swapped the bottom half of the pack and it put it right where it needed to be. And then there's all kind of like the bumper is from On the Rocks Fab. The cab is. There's a lot of stuff on here from them. And then there's some of my stuff too. I put my I make a way better drive shaft than Mahindra makes, so I put my drive shafts in there. I don't know. There's some
What's
other
the travel on that drive shaft?
It's so this one, these shafts have like 8 inches of travel. They don't need all that. The factory ones only had about 2.
Oh wow.
And they used every bit of it. Real dinky shafts like early Willys Jeep. I mean, they did the job, but the problem is the U-joints are also imported. So that was the main failure point of these, but I just addressed the whole thing with bigger tubing, longer travel, same 1310 joint. It's a dinky little joint, but I haven't broke one yet, and I don't think anybody else has either that I've sold drive shafts to.
And these things have a 7-digit or 17-digit VIN, right? Like a full VIN.
Isn't so? I'd have to count it. But yeah, it's a full VIN. Yeah.
So I wonder in Colorado how this would work. Colorado's weird, right? It's weird about a lot of things, but it's weird about UTVs. But if it's got a VIN, and when you buy it, you get a title?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why we couldn't plate this. That's where it comes down to for us is plating. I have a South Dakota plate on my UTV, and that works in some places, but
maybe it was the turn signal. They've got 4-way flashers. There's a couple places making turn signal kits. Everything else is there. What some people have done in those states that don't like to register stuff like this, some states you can retitle it as not a kit vehicle, but something a little different. And then there is the kit vehicle route.
Yep.
There's an outfit somewhere in the Midwest that does, I don't know how they do that, or if they just retitle it there and then they sell you that retitled vehicle and then that just transfers to your state. There's a lot of different ways to get around that.
Sounds kind of like they used the Volkswagen Beetles. They'd still make the Beetle in Mexico all the way up until, I don't know, 15 days ago or something.
Yeah.
And so you just get a modern car, buy the whole car, and then you buy a VIN from a 69 Bug. And as long as you had the original 69 floor pan, stick that under the brand new Bug, and you had a brand new 1969 Beetle.
Yeah.
So, funny story. Guys have figured out how to do this with Polaris Razors and Can-Am X3s. You can basically hang a Bug body on the chassis. And so it's full Polaris, say Polaris engine, drivetrain, CVs, A-arms, all that's Polaris stuff. But it looks like a VW, and it's got a VW VIN number. You take that to your DMV where they won't let you register a Razor, and you say, hey, I want to register my VW Bug. And they say, absolutely. We'd love that. And they look badass.
You could get away with getting a CJ Tub. It's a little bit different, but a little bit of modification. Then you just come up with your own VIN, home built vehicle or whatever. And you could do it that way too.
Well, the other thing that I've heard of people doing, I haven't actually seen this happen before, but you take the serial number plate off of the firewall off as like a CJ3B and you re-rivet it to something different. I mean, I've heard of it, but never seen it.
I've heard of that too. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like any good advice at all. But yeah, I suppose a guy could probably do that and get away with it.
I think the way best for that is you don't take the rivets off. You cut the plate around the plate.
You weld the new plate in.
Smooth that all in there. Grinder and paint for the welder. I ain't.
Yeah,
the original holds the plate in
Sounds like
place.
something that could happen.
I mean, I would never do that.
No,
ever.
No.
Certainly, it's a bad idea.
Terrible. Man. Well, that's cool. I've learned a lot about these little machines tonight because I've seen them. I've seen them on YouTube. I've seen them around, like you said, at Hammers, but I've never actually talked to somebody who has one.
Well, I think we're going to have to reach out to these guys that raced one.
Yeah.
Ask some questions
Yep.
on how they qualified that for the class and what they could do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like we said, we primarily race with the UTV guys, so we've got
They
a huge.
Sold as a UTV.
So is there a big I mean, you said there's places to get parts. Like there's an aftermarket segment for these things, right? Like
there's a few companies. Yeah, there's myself. There's On the Rocks Fab. There's
Who's
Checo Racing, I think.
first outfit that put the
And then-
cable pull lockers in them?
I'm not sure. Probably just some guy.
now, see, UTVs are the same. There's big aftermarket companies, and then there's also like those guys, right? We definitely see that in the UTV world. Hey, run my cage. I made it in my shop,
Yeah. No. Yeah. The few main big outfits that are doing stuff with these, it's good stuff. And then of course there are some garage guys, but even that, I mean, they have one too, and it's kind of like the old Jeep community. Everybody just helps each other out. They don't want to give the other guy, sell the other guy a bum steer or anything. So if they are making something in their garage, it's good stuff.
That was going to be my next question, was like the guys that, for lack of a better term, the guys that rock these Roxors, like you guys like are a group, right? Like I'm assuming you have social media channels, and I don't know
There's
if you have these,
7 or 8 Roxor pages on Facebook. Yeah, there's a couple of main ones, but there's a few other ones. Yeah. Yeah, and it's a very small community. So if somebody is new to it and they come in and ask a question, there's going to be 24 answers with a few of the same people for what that guy's looking for.
Yeah, see, I like that. We experienced that a lot with Ultra 4, regardless of like what class you're in, but that's how the Ultra 4 community is. At the end of the day, it is kind of small. Everybody wants to help. Like, there's only a few guys out there that nobody wants to help. But we like that. UTVs are different because it's just such a wide range of people and users, right? We have those small groups. I'm in several of those, but you've also got a bigger portion of, maybe call them bad apples, right? Not a ton of people, but people that go out and don't represent that community very well. That's something UTVs fight all the time. And it's not going to go away. It's there. But yeah, I like that. I like that part of the Roxor thing, like you're saying, like small community, everybody knows each other. That's cool.
Yeah, there are probably a couple not so good apples. I don't really think we have too many bad apples. I think a lot of them are, they bought it thinking it was going to be a UTV. You know, you can bash up rock hills and just kind of glide. The ride's nice. That's a majority of the complaints. There is factory Mahindra parts availability, which is a lot more complaints, but most of those guys still love the vehicle. They just are waiting on parts. And it depends on what some of those are. I mean, we've got some other guys are getting into some of that. And then there are some that just are a little hard to get right now. The whole COVID thing and getting stuff from India kind of threw a wrench in that. They're still selling the vehicle, so they still got to have parts to support it. So Mahindra themselves is just behind. I think they got kicked in the teeth pretty hard by that Jeep lawsuit. Between that, COVID, there's a few other reasons. You know, Mahindra never really doing anything in the United States besides tractors. You know, anytime you open up a new market somewhere, you know, in a very different region, you're going to have hiccups. And it just all kind of happened at the same time with COVID. You know, Jeep lawsuit was right before or right in the beginning of it.
Well, we kind of had the new Bronco kind of announced right around the same time too. That was supposed to be the big Jeep competitor. So that's probably part of the reason Jeep jumped on the lawsuit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, just a lot of bad stuff happening is why there's some parts that are hard to get right now. But like I said, most of the guys that are waiting on those parts, they still love the vehicle. They still don't want to get rid of it. They just don't like waiting. You know, most of the not so good apples are just, it wasn't what they thought it was, and everybody's got to hear about it, which, I mean, you know, that's fine, I guess.
We call that reasonable expectations, right?
Yeah.
I used to work at a Polaris dealer, and a guy would come in and he'd tell us what he'd want, and I'd say, you want a Polaris Ranger. You want to take your wife out around the property, have a nice enclosed cab, but he'd see the Razor 1000 and he's like, no, that's what I want. It's like, it's not, it looks cool, but it's not what you want.
What you want it to look like, yeah.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to buy it. She's going to hate it. You're going to hate it. Then you're going to come in and complain to me. Like, you need to have a reasonable expectation of what this machine is for. Yes, you can shoot a deer and strap it onto your Polaris Razor. I have probably done that, but it's not what it's made to do, you know. Just like if you bought a Polaris Ranger and you wanted to take it and race it. I get it, but it's just not what it's for, you know. Yeah, and every off-road niche has those people, right? These guys that buy their Jeep Wranglers and take them to the mall and crawl on the curbs with them at the mall.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, then they complain when they want to drive 75, 80 miles per hour and that steering wheel has that vibration in it, man. We just, we flipped a 99 Jeep Cherokee XJ just a few weeks ago, and we've had, between our group of buddies, we've probably had 10 XJs. I got in that thing. I drove it one time, 3 miles from my house to my work, and I was like, yeah, this is an XJ. Handles like an XJ, sounds like an XJ, smells like an XJ. Yeah.
All I can say is after, doing a 1-ton swap on an XJ, I am ready to not ever deal with a unibody ever again.
That's when you just either get one out of a junkyard or you build just frame rails and you bolt the subframe onto it.
Yeah.
There's not much to work with a subframe. It's been done. You can do it, but yeah, I don't blame you for not wanting to do that again.
So I've been working on a whole different project with a Dodge, but in the process of that, I've been seeing a lot of the videos of people that have done 1-ton swaps into Jeeps. What's your favorite way to do that?
So the way I did mine was I sourced these axles. A buddy of mine had them, and I'm not sure where he got them from, but the allure of this particular set of axles was it was a Sterling 10 1/4 rear, and I'm familiar with that. The GM 14 bolt, the carrier looks like some sort of spaceship, so I was a little worried about that. But a familiarity with the Sterling 10 1/4, and then the big draw for me was a Kingpin high pinion Dana 60 in the front. There's something to be said for the stoutness of the Kingpins versus ball joints. And then on top of it, having a high pinion, there's a whole lot of mass that's staying up in the air off the ground by just putting that pinion up high. So then what I did was I bought some components from a company called Iron Rock Off-Road to do I did 4-link in the rear and a 3-link in the front, got rid of the leaf springs altogether. And then I stretched it. I stretched my wheelbase and pushed the rear axle back, and very quickly started destroying the rest of the Jeep because those 1-tons are welded to, well, they were bolted to a tin can. Now they're welded to a tin can. But I remember we did Red Elephant Hill, which is a local 4x4 trail, and it was like my first time out. I'm like, oh, the stock steering box will be fine. No bracing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I need to go left. And there was nothing happened. Well, the steering box had sheared off the unibody. And so I had to upgrade that. And there's like so much, just the whole thing is just covered in stiffeners. But I tell you what, easy way to do one. What's that?
I guess it's braces and
everywhere. The easy way to do a 1-ton swap on an XJ is to utilize the rear leaf springs because it bolt on and there's a few things. But man, the best thing I ever did was move to that 4-link with coil springs. The ride is so much better. That thing flexes. Holy moly, that thing flexes. So big fan of that. I think the biggest thing I would change with my swap that I did was when I did my weld on trusses for the front, I set it at what I thought the camber needed to be set at, or the caster. Yeah, caster. Anyway, and then when I set it up with a 3-link, I ended up having to go to 0. And it's just straight up and down. So when you lose steering, it doesn't track straight, it just goes one way or the other way. That's my biggest mistake with that whole thing was I didn't pay enough attention to the caster.
You could always cut and re-weld.
Well, so the plan is to cut and re-weld. It's just actual execution of that hasn't gone so well. Because now we're into like racing, and the rec wheeling has stopped pretty much. But eventually that'll happen. And eventually I'll get rid of the XJ and move on to something a bit more inspiring. And by inspiring, I mean less tin can.
It is a really capable rig, though. I mean,
very much so. I have an ARB air locker in the front, and I've got the basically a ratchet locker in the rear. I have a Ford e-locker to put in the rear, but that thing's unstoppable. It's got 40-inch tires and it goes where I point it. It really does. And with the stretched wheelbase, that helps tremendously. I was gonna do an LS swap into it, but I don't know if I want to do that with that platform. It's like painting lipstick on a pig here, you know. That poor unibody's just so trashed. And XJ owners out there that are listening, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. You can only do so many welds and gussets before you're like, well, crap. I can't open the rear hatch to save my life.
You can just break those off.
Yeah.
Break the hatch off.
So it was a blast. That was my COVID project. I did that over. I ordered everything and it came in before the big lockdown happened and parts became unobtainium. It was fun. It was definitely a learning process. And I have a bug. I love axles. I love transmissions. Well, I think I do. That's my next frontier. But like I do all my own gear setup now. I haven't blown up a gear. And my biggest claim to fame is I've set up an ARB that performs flawlessly. So that's you have something to be said for that because a lot of people are like, oh, ARBs suck because they don't work, they're not reliable. It's all in the setup. It's all in the setup.
They're pretty simple. I wouldn't think you could really mess those up, but I
Well,
suppose if you tried, you could.
yeah, and I think what happens is people get into the weeds when it comes to shimming, and then you get problems with that air gland and clearances above and below, and people don't pay attention. I spent like an hour on the phone with ARB tech support trying to figure out how to get the air gland to sit perfectly, and now I know the trick. So it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. And I use CO2 paintball bottles through a clippered mechanical switch. It's all mechanical, so there's no solenoids to worry about. And then I just refill my CO2 paintball gun bottles, and I don't have to worry about a compressor or anything. I do have a backup compressor just in case, but
That's a pretty good idea.
That's a pretty interesting way to go about it. Around here, the worst thing with air lockers is you get moisture in them over the years, and then in the wintertime, it either doesn't lock or it's frozen locked because the air can't bleed back. I haven't run into that yet. I probably should make sure there's no moisture in there. But
Sure.
Stick a little airline antifreeze in there.
yeah, that'd work.
well, up
That's
here,
playing with those.
yeah, so CO2 is pretty, pretty pure and dry from the gas company. Because they have to meet special, minimum criterias of stuff. And then on top of it, being in Colorado and the high Rockies, it's pretty dry most of the time. So we don't have a lot of humidity up here.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot here either most of the time.
No, most of the humidity is people get water in the cab from river crossings or driving in the rain without one. If they got their compressor inside, a lot of them got it under the hood. So
yeah, I can
there's
see
that.
that.
I got mine inside, but I go back east every year, almost every year, and it gets pretty humid back there. It was in Tennessee this year.
We are well aware. We've had to make a couple of trips across the Midwest this year for races, and they always ask like, "Hey, what was the experience?" And we're like, "This sucks. We want races in Colorado. We want races in Montana." And they move us to Oklahoma and Tennessee, and oh man.
Yeah, Tennessee's a good one. It rained most of the time. We were there for a week. It rained most of the time, well, half the time, and the rest of the time it might as well have been raining. I walk outside of the camper in the morning, and it's almost 80 degrees, but it feels like it's 180. You walk out, and your t-shirt's drenched in just a minute or two.
Oh, we are well familiar with this.
It was so humid. Actually, I had clouds blowing out of my air conditioning out there.
Oh. Well, I gotta let you go. I'm getting paged out to a call. So
you were right.
It was good meeting you guys, and I'll catch back up with you.
Okay, sounds good. Have
Nice to
fun.
meet you. Have a safe trip.
This is why we record some nights at the fire station, because he can just walk 15 feet over and go hop in the
Couldn't
rig.
tell
So
background that you weren't at the fire station.
Yeah, it looks like you are with all those pictures you got behind you.
yeah, that's one of the perks of Hopper being one of the big volunteers here at our local fire station. We get to kind of use the boardroom. So,
That's
oh man,
good.
he closed the door, but there's like action going down out here. This is like, I'm gonna get a free show out of this.
It's pretty cool. So, tell me about what you've done to the UTV to get it, race ready.
So we've got a couple of different UTVs. I've got my personal Razor, which is not a race car. I call it a family fun wagon. We got into UTVs. Well, I worked at a Polaris dealership before my son was born. We got into UTVs because we could do it as a family. And I've just got a plain old 4-seat Razor 1000. Nothing special. Bunch of bolt-on parts. Razors, man, you set them up however you want to set them up. Mine is set up to take the family out and ride mountain trails. Comfortable, good storage, simple to work on. But our race car, that's a different story. You want to hemorrhage some cash, you let us know. We'll get you
I
a
don't
race.
have a problem. I don't have a problem.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. The cool thing about the UTV platform to me, it doesn't matter if you're in a Can-Am or a Polaris, almost everything you need you can buy bolt on. There's some parts availability issues right now, but not too bad. It's been okay. We built our second race car in about 30 days, and we pretty much knew what we needed to order. We ordered it all, it showed up, and then we assembled it basically. So we have to run comms, right? We run like a rugged radio or PCI comm system, so that the driver and the co-driver can talk and the pits can talk. We have to run a lot of safety stuff, right? That's a little different. Seats, harnesses, door nets, fire extinguishers, stuff like that. That's stuff we have to run to get through tech. And that's pretty standard across race series. The big thing that we do to our race cars is suspension. You kind of mentioned it. The Razors and the Can-Ams, they're built to like eat rocks up. Man, they do an incredible job. It's independent front, independent rear suspension. So we spend a lot of time and money on suspension components and tuning. Suspension tuning is one of the biggest things you can do. Yeah, and that's how you get a race car, man. You don't have to do much to the motors. The Polaris and Can-Am, the two biggest manufacturers, offer turbo models off the floor. That's the biggest thing. Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, they all make great machines, but they're all naturally aspirated. So for our series, that kind of hurts them a little bit. Good for a young driver to get into and learn, but 110 horsepower versus 225 horsepower.
That's quite a jump.
It's a big
That's
difference.
more than that.
Yeah,
And
and
that's great.
the
97
the car that we just bought that we're building, that Joe's going to build for 2023 Hammers, it's a 2022 Polaris Pro R. That's the new model that has the 4-cylinder, tiny little 4-cylinder engine, naturally aspirated. It runs 225 on the horsepower. And then I think it has some, I really have to look this up. It has some crazy travel number, like 24 or 27 inches of travel.
Is that it?
Wow.
Holy cow.
That's all.
Yeah, and we run 35s on our race car because of the class we're in. Obviously, we have to beef up the CV axles, the drive shaft, the prop shaft, and that's really it. Maybe a little gearing in the transmission, but that's it. You can bolt the 35s on and run.
So what turns out to be the fuse in all of that when you put the bigger tires and the bigger everything else on? What's the thing that you leave?
Well, this is what I learned in snowmobiling. There's always a weak point, right? You call it a fuse. Like,
Yep.
there's if you can control what that's going to be, then that's ideal. Because if you just beef everything up, then it turns into like big expensive parts being that fuse or that breakable part. For us, it's the CV axles. We really haven't had any CV axles with our old race car that weren't our own fault, if that makes sense, right? You,
It does.
you roll over and you catch a tire right on a rock, it'll take some things out, and that's when we've had issues with our CV axles. King of the Hammers, totally different story, man. You're gonna carry 4 CV axles on the car, and you're expected to be able to change one out in 10 to 15 minutes on the side of the course, because that's just how brutal that race is. But I'd say CV axles. You want your CV axle to give so that your diff, your front diff, your transmission, that stuff doesn't. Hubs can be an issue. We broke a hub last week. Again, we carry one on the car, so it was a 25-minute change, I think, 20, 25 minutes, and they had the new front hub on.
So do you have different axles front and rear? Or are they the same all 4 corners?
It depends on the car. Our razors, the fronts left and right are the same, and then the rears left to right are the same. I can't ever remember what the combination is. I think you can run a front on the rear, but you can't run a rear on the front if you're in a pinch. But really, I mean, Hopper's the solid axle guy. I'm the IFS guy. They're intimidating to work on, like when you don't have a lot of experience. But if you know how to tear them apart, like it's pretty basic, pretty simple design. It's a little more expensive. There's a few more individual parts there, but the ride is freaking cush. Not to take anything away from that. Like that is cool. It's like we said with reasonable expectations. You just got to know what.
Thanks.
Yeah. How about control arms and stuff? Do you have to beef them up too, or are they pretty beefy fat from the factory now?
The factory says they're beefy.
I see.
I have different ones on my personal razor because I wanted that high clearance. So mine are arched, which gets me a little bit more clearance. I only run 32s on mine. The race car, you're a fool to run stock components on the race cars. We run, yeah, we run HCR. They're based out of Utah, so they're close to us. They make some of the heaviest duty A-arms in the front and long arms in the back, and radius rods. They make really beefy stuff. Another little racer trick that we've learned, like don't paint your suspension components, right? That way, when you have a problem, you can just weld on them. You don't have to do all the prep. We welded a crack in an A-arm at the racetrack last weekend. So they're beefy, but yeah, you can see some failures there depending on how you hit the rock, right? How fast and
yeah. Yeah, I'd say that this is kind of the same if you're gonna do, too much heavy stuff with it. You're gonna want to kind of throw a lot of the similar components in it to beef it up. The factory front axle shafts are not very big. Those have been known to break. Rear axles, not so much. Sometimes a ring and pinion. Of course, it comes down to India metallurgy, but if you swap it with something domestic, the drive shafts, a lot, but not a lot, kind of like what you're into. I guess that brings up another thing. What kind of a role does American manufacturing play into racing? Is there a lot of American-based companies, or is a lot of it imported? Or
in the aftermarket, a lot of the parts are handmade by companies here in the States, like HCR, who handles our A-arms and control arms. Sandcraft, they're based out of maybe Nevada or Arizona, I think. They handle our drive shaft stuff. Those are all like what you guys do. They're just guys that have shops, and they said, hey, I can build this part better than Polaris did. And after they sold it to 10 of their buddies and 10 of their buddies, like it turned into a business, right? I mean, UTVs didn't exist, man, previous to 2008. They did. They were called John Deere Gators, right?
Yeah, they're the Gator. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
in
I actually bought something that was kind of like the predecessor to the Razor. It was small. It was a two-seater. It was a cheap Korean or Chinese rather knockoff Honda engine with an RCV in it, and it had forward and reverse, and that was it. We
Yep.
do about 35 miles an hour. I licensed it for the street. I bought it for like $4,400. Brand spanking new, fully independent suspension, all four corners, and 4-point harness seats, and it was a blast. But it was super cheap, just like the price tag. It didn't
Yep.
last very long. I could not get the thing to lift a tire. I could jump it, but I couldn't lift the tire going sideways. I took it down hills and went all over the place. But that was as close as I came to these modern UTVs. And then my brother-in-law got a Razor, and then they just like took over the country after that.
They
They're
did.
all over the place.
And you think about like this Pro R that we just bought with the 4-cylinder motor from Polaris. If you would have built or a custom bought that 15 years ago in 2007, 2008, like immediately in financial terms from 15 years ago, you're talking over $100,000. These were custom sandrail type buggies.
Oh yeah.
And the manufacturers stepped in and just started like cranking these things out. Like where I grew up, man, we had 3-wheelers, and you weren't allowed to have fun on a 3-wheeler because it was for work, not for fun, for work. And Polaris really started it and said, hey man, there's a market here. Polaris is based out of Minnesota, but they're manufactured in Mexico. I mean, there's no way around that. Can-Am is based out of Canada, French Canadian part of Canada. So we always tease the Ski-Doo and the Can-Am guys like, oh, you must speak French to drive one of those things. But they're manufactured in Mexico as well on the UTV side. So from the manufacturer, it's about as American as a Ford or a Chevy. But the aftermarket,
North American.
yeah, the
Equator
the
America.
aftermarket though is really based in America because, like I said, it's just guys like us that work in our shops and created these businesses. And so that's reassuring. You said it. No one wants to sell their buddy a piece of junk part.
Mhm.
And that's how a lot of the big UTV aftermarket companies started, was just guys selling parts to their buddies. So we feel pretty happy with the quality that we get. I mean, there's some companies that do source some stuff out from China, and that's just how it is, man. For their business model, that's what makes sense. And they do a good job at that. And I'm not going to knock them for that because a lot of times they have product. It might be coming from China, but they have it and they can get it to me quick. And in the race side of things, well, even in just recreationally riding UTVs, we are very impatient people, right? I don't want to wait a month, especially for me. I live in Colorado. My riding season is 4 to 5 months, and then I park the thing for the winter. So when I need a ball joint, I don't really care where it came from, man. I need that ball joint in my hand. So it's kind of all over the place, I guess, as far as that goes.
So how do I word this? How does the build out cost look based on or in comparison to the base machine? Say base machine costs X amount of dollars and to build it to what will do good for what you want to do, which is going to be a little different for everybody. Are you spending half of what the machine costs? We'll figure a new machine. Is it half what the machine costs? Is it the same as what the machine costs? Is it 2 or 3 times what the machine cost?
I saw you look back at that thing.
Yeah, I could have bought a Rubicon and built it up, not, a decent mild build for what I've got into that. But of course, that does everything that I need it to. And you could do a lot of the same things, less comfortable, without a full cab and all that, for a lot less. So I could only, to do what I needed it to do, I'd be coming in probably less than what I paid for the unit to go down to the base. But how does that work in the UTV world? Is it going to be similar or?
Well, you have to keep in mind that the UTV segment is young, right? So it started out very affordable. To buy a brand new machine for under 10K 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very possible 10 years ago. And that's how it started. Some people will blame inflation. Some people will call it manufacturers getting greedy. Really, it's just demand, right? They've gotten so popular. So a new UTV, let's ballpark it 20 grand for a new UTV base model, small, naturally aspirated motor versus 40,000 for a big one.
Right.
Like that's the price range for a bare machine. No,
40,000 for
no,
Yeah.
nothing.
And more. Yeah.
I'm too broke to that stuff.
Absolutely. This is why I bought my Razor pre-COVID, and I'll never be able to afford to sell it because I can't afford a new one.
Never financially recovered from that yet.
Yeah.
Prices have skyrocketed just on the manufacturer's MSRP. But people pay it. I mean, we want to knock it, but people pay it. So they're not wrong. I would look at a Razor that you spent 20 grand on and say, I did mine in stages, right? Because I have a very budget oriented wife, which keeps me in track. So I did phases and I mapped all this out because I'm pretty OCD before. And I said, okay, look, we're going to buy this thing for 20. I got to put 5 grand into it right off the bat just to get it close to what we want. And then in year 2 or 3, maybe another 5. And that's probably where I'm at about right now. I'm at about a $20,000 Razor with about $10,000 worth of parts. And I got mine set up very particular to me. If we kick over to race cars, man, you're buying a $40,000 machine and you're dumping $60,000 into it. You can do a build for a race car under 100 grand, but you'd better be able to do a lot of the work yourself. Which is how we made it work for our buddy Joe. We did a lot of the work ourselves. Hopper fabricated. We tried to go out and get sponsorships and get discounts. And then we did all the assembly and maintenance ourselves. So I think we're probably close to 75,000 into a race car. But you can just write the check right off the bat, man, because there's no denying that you're going to have to buy these parts and put them on this car to make it competitive.
Right.
And
well, that's not far off of, sounds like most other vehicle sports then.
It is. And then when you go to Ultra 4, man, $100,000 ain't nothing. These are what we call unlimited 4,400 cars, no rules. We're talking 1,000 horsepower, 40 to 44-inch tires, custom tube chassis, everything. I mean, you're talking $1 million. You can buy a used one for $350,000. Like, it's crazy.
You really gotta like doing that kind of thing.
Or you got to be really good at getting sponsors.
Yeah.
Getting sponsors.
Yeah,
I'd
that's where the sponsors come in.
Sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't imagine. I mean, I thought about it, but I can't print money, so There's,
We
the Secret Service has got something against that.
Yeah.
we always call it race car money, right? Like we don't have race car money, but we're friends with a lot of guys that do, and that's pretty cool. So we kind of get to go along on the ride. Um,
You
but
still get just miles per gallon.
yeah,
hmm
You get to go play with the cool stuff. Doesn't matter if it's yours or not. It's a lot of fun to just hang around.
oh man, race fuel. The smell of race fuel in the morning, man, is like Christmas to me. You know, we we went camping on a vacation this year that wasn't based on a race or taking our UTVs. We just camped in the woods like we used to. And I told my wife I'm a little uncomfortable because I'm used to guys firing up and heat soaking motors at any time of the day and hearing RPMs and smelling race gas. And I'm like, it's kind of quiet and like peaceful. I don't know if I like this.
What are we even doing?
What happened here? Yeah.
But like I said, for us, for my family and our recreational UTV, it works really well. I mean, I wish I could drive it more. I live in Winter Park, Colorado, man. It's not totally feasible. Our trail systems close here mid-November until mid-June because of the snow. But we do go places. We go to Moab, Sand Hollow, and St. George is on our short list. We go to King of the Hammers. We really love to go to South Dakota and ride. So for us, that's the other thing that the UTV has given to our family. It's gotten us out of our local area and made us go ride trails, meet people in different areas, be a part of a bigger community. I help our friend Alan Yoder. He runs and organizes a UTV rally in Taylor Park, Colorado every summer. And like that's basically just a huge family reunion with like 400 of our closest friends. And we ride razors all week or whatever. It doesn't have to be a razor. Hopper brought his Jeep 2 years ago and rode with us. But that's what drew my family into it, was that community that you were kind of talking about. And I love to tinker and work on my own stuff. No one has ever, I mean, Hopper and Jeff have helped me a little bit. No one's done any work on my razor but me. And I'm too OCD to take it to a shop. That extended warranty, yeah, no thanks. It's not going to do any good for me because I can try to fix it better. And your Roxor right there is probably the same way, man. You could count on one hand how many guys have probably touched that thing.
Yeah, mostly me. I did let On the Rocks do the diff setup on it. So we just moved to this place in 2020. We used to be a little further into Billings there, and the whole warehouse and everything was about the size of this shop. And I bought this. My wife wanted some kind of a side by side or something for the family to kind of do the same thing.
Yep.
Of course, we had a lot more time back then too. But we were looking around, and then I actually saw a Facebook ad from On the Rocks for their turn signal kit, and they had a picture of this, and then a little picture with the turn signal kit. And I thought, a turn signal kit for a Jeep. This was back in 2018 when they first released them, and I thought, that's not a Jeep. Anyway, so we looked more into it, and we ended up getting this. But anyway, looking at, I went to the dealer several times looking at it. And I thought, man, a lot of this stuff looks really familiar. We should just get one so I can do the R&D and sell parts for these.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest idea I've had in a long time. It turns out now. But so anyway, we're at that shop, and I want to do all my own work too. I took it apart. So we moved in late July probably of 2020. When we were doing all the plans and construction, actually the building got finished early because of COVID. We already had it scheduled. So we had all this massive equipment to finish this up. It got done early. But anyway, I took this. I had the axles completely disassembled. This thing was I bought Harbor Freight 6-ton jack stands just for this. And I got the big ones because I didn't have to raise them to get under the axle, because you know about the Harbor Freight jack stands, like to self-lower. And so it's up on its just bare axles, and from like November of 2019. I took transfer case out too, and that was actually in pieces. And, just trying to do it all myself along with everything else. So all of a sudden I'm into the construction planning and all that. And then before you know it, it's time to move. And we got the whole warehouse emptied just about, except for that thing sitting on jack stands. So I put the spindles and everything back on it just to roll it out. Transfer case is still in pieces. I ended up going to the dealer and just getting another transfer case. So the original one's still in pieces back here that I used to make rebuild kits for it. And I called up on the rocks, and I had ARBs in the box, new spicer ring and pinions in the box, and all the Timken bearings and stuff to go back in it. And I says, hey, you want to set up some diffs for me? And so he said, yeah. So I hauled it up, put it on this trailer, and hauled it out there. And he's really the only guy that I take it to, because they're the only ones I can trust. Everybody else, we sell vehicle parts. We get so many calls from people that had a shop work on their vehicle, and now they got to do the same thing over but correctly.
Yep.
And I don't like doing things twice, and especially if I have to pay somebody else to do it the first time. So yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be me touching that. Otherwise, yeah, I can count on one hand how many people have worked on it.
Yeah, and
other guys.
Part of it for me is like trailside failures. That's going to happen, right? We're rough on these things, and I don't want to be cussing some other poor sap because he didn't do. If it's my fault, it's my fault. I can own that and process that a lot quicker on the side of the trail. Plus, I've had my hands on it, right? This is like our co-driver, Jeff. He's a Jeep guy. He wasn't really into UTVs. Well, when we built the first car, we made him physically do a lot of the work. Because, dude, you're going to be on the trail broke. You're going to have to know how this bolt goes in this way, and this is how you pop this part on or off. And he learned a lot, but you got to work. If you're going to wheel these things like we do, like, you got to know how it works and how to.
You have to know just about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, ignition timing is probably something that you don't really need to worry about. Everything beyond that, you probably need to know how to fix on the trail.
Well, even just a simple thing you said, that you got to put the bolt in this way, pull the bolt out that way. It's amazing how many things are like that on a vehicle, where if you don't know this is what you got to do, or you got to pull it to this spot to pull it out, you're not going to get it out. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to have racer know as much as he can about that. I think that was probably a pretty good idea.
Well, for example, in our race last week, we sheared a hub, right? And our driver and co-driver replaced the whole hub, a whole CV axle, put everything back together in under 25 minutes. And they were able to continue on in the race, right? A lot of guys would have been like, we're out, we're done. And our guys were like, dude, we've built this thing 15 times and we got the parts here. Let's fix it and let's keep going. And he finished a few laps down, but he finished. And in endurance racing, that's half the battle, right? It's finishing. In the rec world, it's getting it back to the trailer, right?
Right. Back to the highway.
When Hopper's steering box sheared off, we didn't have a choice, man. We had to get it back to the trailer. And we rode the struggle bus for like 5 or 6 miles over 4 or 5 hours. And It is what it is. Hopper, by the way, just came back.
I'm back. Yeah.
Must have not been that bad of a goal.
Away.
Yeah, it was dumb. They just slipped and fell in their driveway and hit the back of their head, and EMS needed help carrying them. What can I say?
That's a real American hero
What
right
can
there.
I say?
Well, glad you could earn your pay for the night.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 more tonight. We're a volunteer department, but with the amount of growth we have up here, we're, as a volunteer department, we're running 2-3 calls a day. It's mind-numbingly exhausting sometimes. And volunteers are down because there's nowhere to live, and everyone's working 6 jobs, so we're running skeleton crews, and it's a lot of work, but we make her happen.
Good deal.
Right on. Glad somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the next step is we got to transition to a paid department, and it's just figuring out, mill levies and taxes and the general public's perception, and whatnot. Because you get the old timers like, we don't need paid firefighters, and they're like still thinking that's 1987, and I
Oh,
don't
I
know.
thought you were going to say like way long time ago.
Well, it's it's a small community. We have growing pains that everyone's moving here. It's growing, and we're just trying to play catch up and trying to grow in a responsible manner. But
That's all
That's
work.
always the thing. Trying to grow in a responsible manner. That's always the hardest.
yes, sir. Yeah, and since we're right over the hill from Denver, this is where everybody wants to be. So
Mhm.
everyone's just like, hey, let's move there. And I'm like, please don't. But then I have to realize, why keep people away? It's a beautiful place up here.
Well, then it's not so beautiful after you get so many people.
It's true. There is that.
So we've been to Billings the last 2 summers to run the Big Sky 200 up there with Aaron and Grizz. And every time, both times we've come through there, we're like, man, Billings seems nice. This, maybe a guy could live here and do pretty good. And then we think, man, then we would be those people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we'd be a lot farther away from the desert too for
Yeah.
racing.
I actually got a buddy who lives there. Shout out Matt Story. I don't know if you know him or not, but he's a diesel mechanic there somewhere. But I've known him for many, many, many years. He lives there somewhere in Billings.
It seems like a nice place. I mean,
Billings itself, downtown, the old part of town, even some of the west end now, it's newish, still 40-year-old part of town. A lot of it's getting kind of run down now. They've had so much new development out here that they're all the nice houses. And that's where everybody wants to live. Now they're starting to pay for it. I don't know where these people are coming with money like that, but
Yeah.
anyway, so now downtown and several square miles is not a place you would want to walk around unarmed in the middle of the night. That's for sure.
That's a nice way to put that.
well, it's Montana. I assume that everybody was armed all the time.
There's a lot more people moving here that aren't. But a buddy of mine, he lives just at the next town down the road here, Laurel, just a few minutes away from Billings. Half the time he shows up here armed, just because why not? But a few minutes into town, it's still on the outskirts of town. One of my employees has had his truck broken into 6 times in the last 3 or 4 years or something. And he parked it out here now. We're out in the middle of nowhere, kind of hard to get into. Locked gates at night, but yeah, it's going downhill pretty quick. For a while during COVID, there was one vehicle stolen a day in town, which, I mean, Chicago, that's nothing, but for Billings, yeah, I mean, that's the whole state. You don't have vehicles stolen, every once a month or something. And usually it's just kids out joyriding or something. It's not a vehicle you'll
Yeah.
Yeah, here I'll date me just a little bit. When I graduated in '91, I stayed in Ohio. I'm from Montana. I moved there with family in '87. Came back later in '95. I graduated and came back to visit my brother. My brother, let's see, it was a couple years after I graduated. He was still in school. Family moved. I stayed behind with a girlfriend, right? So I come out here and I was reading through the handbook for the school, and school in Broadview is, preschool to 12th grade, all in one building. They have since a couple of small buildings on the outside of that, but other than that, it was just 130 kids in the whole school. And the student handbook at that time said, if you bring your rifle to school, you must leave it under the seat in your pickup. That was
Yeah.
1995.
They still did that in Roberts up to 04 or something, I think, is when they 04, 05 is when
Yeah.
Yeah, I always used to have a gun in the
Columbine
rack
was
in the
kinda
back
the end of
window, Yeah. Yeah, even Billings. I used to run to Billings. We only had one Walmart at the time. It wasn't even a super center then, so it closed every night. But yeah, even back then, I'd have a rifle in the back window sometimes too, pistols on the dash. Keys in the ignition, doors unlocked.
Mm-hmm.
Never had to worry. Don't do that now. That thing will be gone before you can get in the store.
Yeah.
I don't give away what's available to drive free out in Broadview.
Yeah. Oh, I leave
There's
the
still a
keys.
lot of that. The keys are just in it.
Yeah, I leave the keys and stuff here. My wife harps on me. She's from city, so it's a
So-
kind of a culture shock for her. But
When we came to the first race out there in 2021, I told my dad, I'm from Kansas, farm kid, and told my dad we're going to go to this race in Broadview, Montana. I'm sure you've never heard of it. And my dad said, I was in Broadview, Montana, probably around 1975, 74, 70, something like that. And I'm like, what were you doing? And he's like, I worked on a custom harvest crew in the summer.
they were still pulling a lot of grain out of there back then.
Yep.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, we were all the way up to Broadview. He's like, I know exactly where that's at. And I'm like, what are the chances? Like I said, I've never been actually into town, but a lot of the guys up there told us like, just a tiny little town, nothing really,
Yeah, the speed limit drops, I think, going through it. But
Yeah, it's
I
a
mean,
blank town.
besides that, you blink and you're through it.
Other than being like really close to Canada and really far from King of the Hammers, it'd probably be a really nice place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not such a bad place. There's one house in Broadview that we're pretty sure is I can't spit it out. Witness protection.
Ah,
Yes.
there you go.
Joking. We tease about it all the time. My family and some other people in town joke about it being the witness protection house because multiple times in the last 20 plus years, some family shows up there and they'll make a slip like, "Hey Jason," talking to their kid or something, or they'll say, yeah, that's my dad." That's not really my dad. You'll get the kids will tell some story that is clear they don't know what they're supposed to be telling. And then they're only there for a few months and then they're gone and you never see them again.
That's a good place to put them.
Yeah, you want to talk about middle of nowhere. That's it.
Yeah, we had this guy. He ran a pizza joint up here years ago. His name was Frank D'Antonio, and it was D'Antonio's Pizza, New York pizza, the most New York guy family you could imagine. Like, he hated winter, he hated it up here, he hated snow, he hated the cold,
Hated tourists.
and him and his old lady would just be in there just fighting the whole time. He's slinging dough, she's doing toppings, just yelling at each other, and you're just like, how the hell did you two make? And we're like, witness protection, man. That's the only explanation.
They're just happy together. Some people aren't happy unless they're miserable.
Yeah, but the pizza, oh my gosh, I'm just super
dude.
hungry just thinking about things.
Authentic.
Oh man.
Yeah, the dude's like, covered in grease. Like,
500 pounds.
you take somebody in there that's not from here and they're like, what the hell are you? Like, I'm not eating here. And you're like, no. This is
legit.
I grew up going to barbecue joints in Kansas City, man. If there weren't bars on the window, like, it wasn't good. You wanted to be the worst possible place. So when I walked in and saw 350-pound dude covered in grease, I'm like, I'll eat this guy's pizza.
Oh, it's gonna be good there, no doubt.
Nobody buys barbecue or pizza from a skinny guy like me, right?
Mhm.
Right.
I mean, you're lucky they trust you to eat it.
Yeah. But you walk in and you see that big old boy on the other side of the counter, man. This is going to be a good
You
meal.
know you're in for a good time.
That has nothing to do with Roxors or UTVs or off-roading.
No, I guess not, but it fits
Like
right
you
in.
said,
It
yeah.
fits right in.
We talked about UTVs while you were gone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Had to wait for you to leave because I didn't want to.
Didn't want to
If you guys wanna- If you want to do a quick walk around, we got Joel's joining on the go to meeting here. We can give you a quick tour of this since we got it here.
Sure.
We sometimes record in my garage, but Hopper didn't want to drive all the way down there. We could have done the same thing with the Razor. Oh, that's all right.
We'll have to do that next time, right?
Yeah. I like this thing, man. It's different than the Razor, but it's kind of the same idea,
Yeah.
right? Like, here's something a little different. It's not a Jeep like everybody else has. You can work on it.
Out at all times. Usually not for this. Usually I'm recovering somebody in a Jeep.
1 second. I'm gonna change the settings in the group.
Oh, yeah. Just mute this. Or here, I got it.
Yeah, now we can't hear you.
How about now?
Here you
Yep,
go.
there we go. We got you.
Hold on, let me mute this. This.
See, they got the same problems we do, man. Microphone problems.
Technical difficulties.
I hate it.
So that's it right there.
So we're looking at the engine right now.
And I've got a RX-41 turbocharger in there. I guess where's the camera at on this? Right there.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to see, but a very significant upgrade from the factory.
Yeah.
Could you fit an LS under the hood of that thing?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes. Always yes.
Yes. Yes, you could.
Probably have to take a few things out.
Yeah, factory, they've got an EGR that comes up in here, and that was extra weight, dead weight.
Yeah.
So the grill I added, the bumpers. There's a better look at the shackle reverse kit. Oh, and my rock lights I just put on for the last night run I did with the local club. I did have to put wheel spacers for the 35-inch tires. I'd like skinny tires, but I couldn't get a decent tread in 35. That was skinny, so I think these are 12s or something
Is
wide.
that so like what kind of tire is that? Is that like a light truck tire?
It is a light truck tire, yeah. Yeah,
15.
I drive down the highway, the real stiff sidewalls. It kind of sucks for snow, even at 2 or 3 psi, because they just don't balloon correctly.
Now, could you use a UTV tire on a Roxor?
A lot of guys do, yeah, but they're not rated for highways. You know, they got knobby UTV tires in 35 that are skinny, and I could have went that route, but they're not rated for highway speeds.
Okay.
So that was out.
We do have some I say CDOT, some DOT. There are some DOT 35s out there, I think. I'd have to do some digging. I can't remember what they were. Because some states require for you to permit it to put a DOT tire on.
Yeah, I didn't. I just did some quick looks and I didn't see any, but I guess I didn't search specifically for DOT UTV tire.
Its tire selection in the last 2 years has gotten a lot better on UTVs. I can tell you that. We run 35s on our race cars. I run 32s on mine, but I like. I run a fuel tire, which is a little bit lighter tire.
Yeah. I'll have to look into those again. I wouldn't mind a better snow tire anyway. Something that balloons correctly.
I better know somebody take these ones off your hands.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't get rid of these. So this is on the Rocks Fab cab, and he built a roof rack for me. It makes a good bark slider right there. And then this is their custom dash too. The factory dash is just flat with a CJ style speedometer in the middle. I got a decoded digital in it with a tilt steering wheel.
That's nice.
Glove box, which they didn't have. They do have storage under the seats, which is pretty unhandy most of the time. So there's that. I actually also put a diesel fuel heater in here because the factory turbo and factory tune, even factory turbo and tune, the engine didn't put out enough BTUs unless you were on the highway to heat the cab.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the HVAC. So with the tune and bigger turbo, you know, the engine does put out pretty much enough heat. If you're kind of putting around in the mountains, it's still a little weak, but driving down the highway, I don't even need to fire the main heater.
How much does the thing weigh?
Factory, these are 3,500 pounds, and I'm at least I got 500 pounds in tires. So I'm 43 or 400 pounds maybe, the way it's outfitted. On the rocks, tail light protectors, I've used those a few times.
Are those factory seats that you've got in there?
Yeah, so the front seats are factory, and this is just a CJ flip forward rear seat, and it's flip forward right now. But I did actually build, well, I keep my camp chairs on the back too, but I did actually build a harness bracket for my kids, so they sit back here when we're out goofing off.
Nice.
And I positioned the seat far enough forward that I can still put a couple of toolboxes in the back. Here, you run the camera. And of course, fire extinguisher always in a handy place.
Yeah.
Can actually kind of reach back and grab it if I needed to, but should never need it.
Famous last words.
Yeah, right? Plated for highway use.
Nice.
The full float kit, I've got locking hubs on, so if I've got some kind of failure, I can unlock the rear. You know, if I get a disc failure or something like that.
That's pretty cool.
I haven't had to, doing R&D stuff, I've unlocked all the hubs and, to run through gears or something in here on the floor. And then I've got half doors for it too that come down from this line down to the lower body line here. What else? I don't know. You want to hear it run?
Sure.
I mean, I like a good diesel.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfortunate right now with diesel prices, but
Let's not go there. That's disappointing.
man, can we race?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's pretty
That
cool.
sounds freaking badass. This sounds so good. That whistle. Oh my god. That's cool.
Can you imagine pulling up to somebody at Taylor Park in one of these things, man, and then black smoke?
Actually, I'm running this on used oil. Used oil blend, so it smells a little bit like used oil in here now. But
Oh wow.
yeah, I started running that earlier this year before I took my vacation when diesel fuel was $1 million a gallon, whatever it was. My theory was my 5500 GMC is also diesel, and I figured if my tanks get dipped, they can't tell that it's red if it's black.
Love it.
So I went all the way to the other side of Iowa on black fuel in my truck, and I actually we'll have to send them a picture, but I put this on this trailer, and then I got a nice big fifth wheel camper I put, and then my truck. So this thing turns heads all the way around anywhere I go.
Wow.
It's a C5500 Kodiak as well.
Okay.
Double hauling.
Yeah. Let's see. There's some other stuff underneath. I don't know if the light will pick it up. My drive shafts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basic, right? There's nothing like fancy about it.
No, actually, no. I mean, the most wires are right here, and half of them are for the EGR stuff that's just taped up. But I mean, it's pretty clean. There's some other wires for lights and winch and some other. I'd probably put as many wires on here as what it came factory.
Yeah.
What I would say. But underneath, you can see the top side of the engine there. So the transmission, I've got one on the floor over here.
Yeah, just don't mind our junk.
Yeah, don't mind the junk.
Love junk. Oh, I saw the brake dust covers on the pallet. You guys had that on your Instagram earlier today.
Yeah,
Yeah, on the
we
story.
got a plethora of those right now.
Yeah.
So this is the little 5-speed transmission Mahindra makes. It's not very big. So you take this is what, a couple of feet, plus the bell housing. And then the transfer case, well, I'll show you those. I don't have a bell housing. So here's the transfer case right here. Roxor transfer case.
Wow.
And if you look right here, you have a Willys, what is this, T90 transmission and a Dana 18 transfer case.
Wow.
Pretty much the same. Here, I got it upside down and backwards, but
That transfer case looks like it barfed all over the inside of that box.
yeah, this is one, we sold a guy a new one. He, where's this? He got some water in it. He flat towed this from Missouri to Montana. And that's where the front output shaft goes. And yeah, there was nothing left in the front. This thing was a real bear to take apart. But Jeep parts, Roxor parts. And actually this twin stick will bolt right on in place of this.
Man, this
Most of the bearings and stuff for the Dana 18 are the same as Roxor 18 model. The gear pitch is a little different, but if you swapped all the gears, there is some other differences, like an input shaft where that doesn't have an input shaft. It has a gear that rides on the output shaft of the transmission. Besides that, I mean, it's a pretty universal thing.
So we're like super. I don't know if you guys know what Honda Groms are. We're super into Honda Groms. They're little 125cc fuel injected mini bikes. We use them at the races. We drive them to work every day because they're super fuel efficient. I'm a big motorcycle guy, but a Grom is like a fake motorcycle. That's what the big guys tell us.
Mm-hmm.
Like Roxors, man, have the same appeal to me that Groms do. Like here's this thing that a lot of people just look past, and they have no idea that functionally it's a Jeep, right? I mean,
Functionally, yes.
and a Grom is the same way. A Grom is a motorcycle. I have a title and a license plate and all that. So I dig that about the Roxor, man. It's different, but it's not that different.
I'll have to look up. I've never heard of them. I'll have to look that up.
Hopper looks super goofy on his, but I look really good on mine.
Whatever.
Yeah, they don't come much bigger than child size.
No, and that's okay, man. They're fun I love riding my Grom almost as much as I love riding a Harley.
This is the spare Roxor engine.
Oh, wow.
Thought I had this. I had to take the EGR off to get it under my pallet racking here, but there's not much to them.
Yeah.
So, here's what the factory EGR cooler looks like.
I mean, a simple little
it's-
Mahindra diesel engine.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
is all that assembled here but shipped over? Like, how does that work?
So the main assemblies, most of it's assembled over there. Like complete axles are crated up, complete engines. There's probably some things that they do finalize here that are U.S. made. Like their speedometer is made by, I forget who now, but somewhere in the Midwest makes the speedometer for these. And there's a handful of other parts. This is a Bosch injector, but it's an Indian part number on it. So I haven't come up. You can do a CP3 swap on it. Somebody was doing that. They were putting big turbo on, maxing fuel and everything out. I forget who it was. And then they said, "Oh, CP3 swap." And so they made some posts about it. And I thought, man, these are utility engines. They're not going to take it. Well, lo and behold, a few weeks later, you haven't heard anything else about the CP3 swap. I suppose if you wanted to put one on just so, something failed, you can get CP3 parts here and just don't turn it up. It's probably a great swap, but of course they're going for, America, bigger, faster, more horsepower. So very shortly, you didn't hear much about that after those couple of posts. But actually, all the factory stuff for that Roxor is in here. The factory rear axle shafts are here. All the factory bearings, factory ring and pinions. My original transfer case is back here, still in pieces. I never did get it put back together and swapped in with good bearings.
So I was gonna compliment you because when you open that door up, you went from like a normal guy's shop with parts everywhere to like what looked like a nice clean warehouse that was organized. And now you're showing us like the shelf with all the extra parts on it.
Yeah. These are kind of my junk shelves.
I like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here's spindles for my top kick, RCV shafts for my top kick. I make those.
Be special.
Oh yeah. Here's a Spicer spindle that didn't quite get punched.
Somebody was right at the end of their shift, I'm sure.
Yeah. Got a little thin right there.
That might be your problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a brand new one. Yeah. I opened the box and thought, what is this? It went, I don't know, when they were dropping it out of the forging, about from here back is right. So it's like it dropped halfway off and got knocked sideways when it was so hot.
And then this is a factory shaft out of.
Oh yeah, here's factory shafts, factory front axle shaft out of a Roxor.
Okay.
And this one I actually put a good Spicer joint in. I must have been doing a video or something on that. And then they come with these little dust shields for the axle tube. We actually started printing these. People break them. You don't need it, but people. Oh yeah, there's.
So you guys printed that with a 3D printer?
We did.
Nice.
I think
we get all kinds of stuff here. We got big stuff and we got little stuff.
I guess next summer when we come to Billings, we're gonna have to come check this out.
Yeah, I'll give you the grand tour.
Give you a little walkthrough.
Ring and pinions, just in diffs, just waiting.
Waiting for a home.
Waiting for a home. You need a ring and pinion?
Those are the used ones, aren't they?
Yeah, those are just not all used. Yeah. So,
Yeah, this is cool.
That's a nice size one.
Yeah, American axle. AAM 11.5. We got new transfer case housings and all kinds of parts, and then brand new transfer case assemblies in the back for Dodges and Fords. Not the newest ones, but 03. Well, 99 to 17, or 99 to 16 in Ford, and 03 to 03 to 12 in Dodge. We got some Chevy ones back there too. New, not reman. All kinds. We got all kinds of junk in here.
So how many employees do you guys have?
15-ish.
I haven't counted lately.
I haven't either. At one point,
It's gone up recently.
At one point during COVID, when stuff was just flying off the shelves because people were sitting at home with extra money, which must have been pretty nice.
I don't know those people.
I don't know any either. Everybody I know has been working, but
Yeah.
I mean, we had 22 or 23 people here, I think.
Yeah, I think
Only half of them schmucks.
in a year, almost a year and a half that I've been here, between 7 and 22,
Yeah, somewhere in there.
up and down.
Yeah. I could use some more, especially some skilled labor, but we make it work. I'm usually working more than 40 hours, but that's okay. I'm salary. I get paid to sit on my ass or do something. So.
There you go.
Oh, want to walk by the used shelf? back
Which one? We got a couple of used parts shelves.
The back wall usually has some pretty good stuff.
Oh yeah, so we got more used parts here.
Man, I like the way it looks organized.
Yeah.
More
Wait,
glass.
This one's my office.
Yeah. So we actually make wheel hubs for Dodges. There's a couple Ford ones here too, but usually these shelves are full plus a bunch more on pallets, but I got to do a reorder. Of course, the end of the year isn't when you want to do that, but a lot of that discontinued stuff. More RCV stuff for the Kodiak top kick trucks.
Yeah, you're talking about the plow guys?
Yeah, a lot of plow guys. Actually, we just shipped one today. Probably has a plow because that's the Kodiak guys. None of them ever break it unless they got a plow on the front. And then it's not the owner that breaks it. It's guys that don't own the truck that end up breaking it.
Yeah.
Always.
More hubs, backing plates. We've got some 205 205 transfer case housings. Here's the Dana 24. This is a 221 or no. That's a international 205. There's a 221. This one. No, yeah. Is that one?
Looks like
That's the Dana 24. Oh, right here. No, that's another 20. Anyway, we got them somewhere. Maybe
Yeah.
it's down. But oh yeah. Old Chevy transfer case.
If you had a shop, I could organize all your
Yes.
crap like this.
That would be glorious.
It would be.
What else we got? Oh, I make new Roxor spindles that are a little heavier sidewall. The factory Roxor ones are quite a bit thinner. Most people don't break them, but there's like the On the Rocks guy. He's broken one or two. There's been a couple other people that have broken them.
I mean, we could
a lot of
we could
mines.
probably.
A lot of mines break them. I mean, we got all the way down to little Dana 28s for the Ford twin traction beam, 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Like a Bronco 2 application?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then we've got the shafts and everything for them too, which aren't back here, but yeah. What else we got? I don't know. We got several shelves worth of bearings, OEM transfer case chains, U.S. made, not the ones you get at the parts chain stores.
Sure.
Just a lot of nice junk.
Yes. I love
At
it.
least there were 3 ways to hook a 205 to an NV 4500 or
Yeah,
5600.
yeah, lots of ways to adapt things. I guess we can keep going over here.
Yeah, this is kind of like your quality bearings and seals for Roxors and stuff.
Yeah, actually, most of my Roxor stuff is here. I've got some over there, but I started making gasket kits for them. The whole transfer case rebuild kit is in here, as well as wheel bearing kits, front and rear, is scattered throughout here. And then I do have some other stuff like Kingpin, Dana 60 parts. Here's the pin. It's kind of a hodgepodge. A lot of Roxor. There's a few Jeep things.
Yeah.
Drive shaft stuff. Here's one of the slip stubs that I use for the Roxor drive shafts. Quite a bit of slip in that.
2 feet long, by what I tell my wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it all gets pushed out of here. We got automated carts for picking that tell you where to go and how many and what to pick. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's pretty uptown. And then that fancy machine makes parts look like that.
Okay.
And then my favorite aisle.
Oh,
The
yes,
tools.
the tools. We can't get out of here without looking at the tools.
The specialty tools.
So
love
the specialty tools, we've got U-joint installer and remover tools
Yes.
that go with our C-frame press, which we're out of stock of right now. So the C-frame press is something we buy. The wheel nut sockets are something we buy. Everything else, just about everything else, is something that we make. All kinds of specialty front axle seal installers, rear axle seal installers. Here's some ball joint tools, axle seal remover tools. Just
You guys have a specialty tool for the super ultra pesky newer Dana 60 2-piece axle shaft seals in the new Super Duties?
maybe.
It's like
Oh,
a
yeah, I know.
What do you
mean. Yeah,
consider
yeah,
to be
yeah.
newer? I guess is the real question.
I know.
2005.
Oh, yep, 05 plus Super
Yeah,
Duty.
looking.
Yeah,
So there's
that one?
actually.
Is it this one, Jesse? And then this one has the handle with it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for the knuckle seal, yeah. So that's for the knuckle seal, and then the axle shaft seals. You mean this guy?
Yeah, so it's the 2-piece and it's super tight and it makes it almost impossible to deal with that knuckle seal because it's so tight. You
Yeah.
can't, like, take it in and out.
Yeah, so we've got a tool to put the axle seal in, and then the knuckle seal. Well, it's either this or that other
Yeah,
one.
this is the earlier style.
So
Yeah.
what you do is you install that big knuckle seal onto the outer axle with this and a hammer, and then you take that whole assembly, and this sets it at the correct depth.
Yes. So those of you who are listening to this, you make sure you buy that if you're working on Super Duties, because I've done like 6 different sets of ball joints now, and it's been I tried doing it with like wood blocks. I think I got one off of somewhere that wasn't you guys, unfortunately, but yeah, it's a lifesaver. It's a game changer.
And then we
Yep.
make them for 250, 350, 450, 550.
Yeah.
There is another piece to that tool. I just don't see it at the
Yeah,
moment.
oh my, I can't stress enough how life-saving those tools are when you're doing ball joints in a Super Duty.
Yeah, and then we also make them so that the seal is set at the proper depth. There's
Okay.
a lot of guys that will kind of put something together and they'll just go till it stops. That's not the proper depth, and usually they burn up a seal pretty quick, or they get water in, and then they're burning up that little spindle bearing in there.
Yeah.
You know those aren't exactly cheap seals, so
No.
it's nice to get it right the first.
Well, and then it's kind of stupid because that whole ESOF system on those Super Duties, there's a vacuum leak somewhere. Like I've spent hours replacing all my stuff, and it still doesn't work.
Yeah, well, we do have new vacuum hubs. The locking hub. Sometimes it is the locking hub.
I think we're out of vacuum hubs.
I saw one the other day. It might have shipped, but yeah, we usually keep those in stock. But yeah, usually it's knuckle seal. Sometimes it's those hoses from the knuckle up to the main part of the truck. And then sometimes it is the hubs just fail and the hubs leak vacuum.
Yeah,
So-
I've ordered O-rings for those part. I don't remember what, but a set of O-rings for something in those hub knuckle assembly from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because our local parts store is like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, screw you. I'm gonna go to Torque.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Yeah, those O-ring kits have got. Right there.
Yep. Yep.
Look at that. Just pulled it right out of the box.
Yeah. Because
But I
guys,
have no idea what you're talking about, though.
yeah.
I don't know. What other kind of cool stuff we got in here?
Well, when you guys actually make it here, we'll have to take you through the outside junk pile.
Oh, yes.
Gosh, yes.
Outside junk pile. You thought I had some nice stuff laying on the floor in there.
Yeah.
You haven't seen my outside junk pile.
Hopper's like
Outside, but
grooving.
outside this.
Oh man, I specifically when I bought my house like 7 years ago, specifically purchased in an area with no HOA. Specifically.
Yep.
Uh,
So here, we're actually in the middle of an HOA, but we're exempt from the HOA. This was the developer's land, so he exempted it.
Ah,
My neighbors weren't real happy with it, but this was a rodeo. This was an indoor arena. You know, we
okay.
had rodeos here, and I don't know how a bunch of drunken cowboys is any worse than me, but apparently I was the worst thing on earth.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. Most of them warmed up to me, you know. Oh, come help me move this. So I take the forklift or the tractor down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll help you. You know. Oh, it's cool. For the most part, they don't have too much of a problem with me. They did install speed bumps this year. They thought my employees were driving too fast in the subdivision, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes after the first big snow.
Yeah.
I mean, back to the UTVs. We have speed bumps where we live, and I don't even slow down.
No, there's speed bumps, not slow bumps.
Yeah. I did some suspension tuning on mine, and my wife was like, "Hey, did they take those speed bumps out?" And I'm like, "No, they're still there. I'm hitting them faster."
That's why I'm kind of inspired by the IFS, IRS trophy truck stuff. I'm thinking that'd be a great way to outfit my 97 Cummins pickup.
Yeah,
And I can drive down the road and not feel any bumps.
that is the good thing about UTVs. You can just haul ass and not feel it.
Oh yeah.
This, I don't really feel it either because I'm usually running at like 12 PSI down the highway. So
Yeah.
that takes a lot too.
beadlocks, 8 to 12 psi. I live there all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got internal bead locks in these.
Okay.
And I go down to, I try to keep it up off that fiber strap retainer for that inner tube. That's at like a 1.5 psi roughly. So I try to keep it a little, at least 2, and it does pretty good. Real squishy ride down at that low, but most of my wheeling's probably done at about 8. I would say that's kind of a good in between. I could go down to 6, but you get a little bit more body roll because it sucks into the tire. So 8's pretty good. 12 starts to get a little rough. A little better ground clearance. Not too much. It's pretty short. But 8's kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah, I keep my 40s at 3.
Yeah.
But like you said, the body roll gets pretty. You get some off-camber stuff, and it gets sketchy real fast.
It does, especially in this. I don't know if it comes in the picture, but it's a lot taller than it is wide.
Yeah.
So it feels pretty tippy, and I have actually that scar down the side there, a couple scars. Was from this year. I went in a big V crevice. If I was wider, I could have kind of straddled the one side to get up over a little hump on the high side, or I could have went right down the middle, but if I slipped off either direction, it would have been a ride. So I drove down the side of it, and I had to lock the ARBs in. The driver's side tires ended up coming off the ground that far because I was just right on the side.
Wow.
We're going to have to be doing some research here, I think.
Yeah, it's intriguing. That's for sure.
These are pretty capable little things. I mean, you do got to put some money into them to get them reliable. India Metallurgy, if it was all American-made stuff, it would have been so much better.
Yeah.
Indian Metallurgy, you get what you get, and some people throw a fit. I just replaced all the stuff I thought I was going to break, and besides breaking one RCV shaft when I was really loaded up, so far that's all I broke. I've had to change some wheel bearings, I guess, getting water in. I've got most of those issues fixed. Transmission got some water in. I did vent it correctly, but I didn't realize that the boot that slips on over the top, it's got a zip tie groove, but it didn't have a zip tie, so I got filled from the top. But it seems okay. There's a little hum, but I'm going to be into the transmission soon enough for rebuild kit, so I'll just do what I need to.
In the UTV world, they tell us when you hear a noise like that, you just turn up your music.
Yeah. This you don't have to worry. The engine's loud enough. You don't need a radio. I got one, but you just more RPMs. That's all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, does pretty good.
Well, awesome. Well, I sure appreciate you showing us around. Oh,
They muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
We're back. Oh. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Whoa. Okay, let me turn the volume down. Okay, and we're back.
there you go.
I like it, man.
Yeah,
We're going to have to spend a little time up there.
I agree. Well, shoot, I appreciate you guys. I gotta get running home, but I appreciate you guys having us on. It sure is awesome to, talk to you, put some names to faces. Like I said, I've been purchasing from you guys for a while now, and I met you for the first time up in Montana at the race, and follow you on the socials, and now we get to finally chat with you in real time. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, we're glad to have you guys on, especially at such a late hour. My wife's probably not real happy, but I certainly appreciate you guys being up for it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm gonna get home and I gotta do some editing to some videos, and then tomorrow's Friday.
We need to discuss before you go home tomorrow night. I have an idea.
Oh.
We might have some covert operations.
We definitely have covert operations coming up. Stuff, unfortunately, we can't discuss via digitized media because the government might hear.
That sounds 100% safe and legal, like throwing your used car batteries into the ocean.
It's good. Yeah, exactly. It's
I
completely.
love that group so much. Oh my gosh.
But
Yeah,
Cool.
man, it was great coming on, and
yeah,
yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to do this again soon, or maybe even you guys stop in next time you're up around here. We'll give you the
Oh,
grand
we'll make-
tour.
we'll make a point to stop in because Ultra 4, with the Montana race, we'd be coming anyway, but it is an Ultra 4 race for 2023, so we'll be up then, up to Broadview. So
Well, I'm usually around here somewhere.
excellent. All right.
Sweet.
Well,
I don't think I ever ate dinner.
we gotta get you dinner.
I
He's
never
gotta
ate
get you
supper.
dinner.
Oh, man.
Oh man, you gotta go eat something.
Yeah.
Guy's still so skinny.
Yeah.
That's probably part of it. I forget to eat a lot of the time.
Mm.
Guys got things to do.
Gotta have
Yeah.
priorities.
True.
Yeah.
Yep.
We seem to have a lot of things to do lately.
Oh my gosh, so much. All right. Yep.
All right, guys. We'll be talking to you later. Have
Yes.
fun.
Thanks.